Stacy, welcome. So, how much sway is Elon Musk going to have here? He likes to move stuff back and forth, both within China and between the U.S. and China, I guess.
Let's put Musk aside for a minute. But the conversations around tariffs are interesting. Trump, there's already been a lot of stuff during Trump 1.0 around tariffs and other things on semiconductors from China. Looked like over the weekend he may be planning to add Mexico and Canada to the mix. And I've said this before, like the U.S. actually does import a fairly sizable amount of semiconductors, but not from these countries. Mexico and China, it's a couple of $1 billion worth of raw semiconductors every year in the context of a $500 billion kind of industry. Canada's a few $100 million. It just doesn't really matter that much. Most semiconductors travel between at least China and the U.S. inside other things. So clearly there are indirect potential impacts. If you're raising the price of PCs and smartphones and cars and impacting end demand, that can certainly have an effect. And clearly tariffs and other things have moved supply chains around. And so those are sort of indirect or secondary effects there can be from tariffs on semis. But direct tariffs on these countries on semis just not that much of a direct impact. It's just not enough volume to really matter one way or the other. But people also forget, but there's already a 50% tariff on semis from China. Yeah, hasn't really impacted anything, right?
But even outside of tariffs, there's been this dance for several years now, not just the Biden administration, Trump too, I think, around exactly how sophisticated an AI chip can you sell into China? And, NVIDIA will redesign and then they'll clamp down on that one, et cetera, et cetera. Do you expect the Trump administration the second Trump administration to get more aggressive about that? What can you tell from how Trump 1.0 handled it and how Biden handled it? Was it pretty much just the same, or should we expect some kind of shift?
And by the way, we may see some incremental, but this is export controls we're talking about now, not tariffs. So this is not allowing U.S. companies to ship certain products to China. Right. And it's been primarily AI chips and as well as some semiconductor capital equipment tools. And I would say like the original like Trump actions on this were not that effective. They were pretty leaky. Most of them went after Huawei and others, and they were very easy to work around. I would say the Biden restrictions have actually been more effective, much more surgical. So they were really targeted at very specific things, and they put very sort of strict thresholds, and they actually did impact things more. And again, the companies themselves were able to work around, and last year the Biden administration made those thresholds tighter that further restricted what could be sold. And we're still waiting to see if we may see more. Now, what Trump might do, I don't know. Like he could do anything. Like he's Donald Trump, right?
Well, but what I was getting to, and I think you're answering this, is that actually the Biden administration was a bit tighter on the export restrictions than the first Trump administration was.
They were less leaky. They were harder to work around, and they put the onus more on the semi companies themselves rather than they were just trying to like restrict Huawei, for example. They put very clear restrictions on, you can't ship AI chips that have a performance above a certain threshold or a memory bandwidth above a certain threshold. They said you cannot ship semiconductor manufacturing tools that can make products that are like more advanced than X or Y, depending on what it is. So they were sort of a more specific limits. And again, they did further tighten them as we went along, because it's always possible to work around this stuff. Nothing is airtight. But I would say that the Biden restrictions were more effective, clearly, than what Trump 1.0 put in place. And we'll see if Trump 2.0 takes any lessons from that. But I can't imagine that things are going to get easier. So if best case, they'll probably stay where they are. And my guess is things probably will get tighter. And that may even happen before Trump takes office.
Why do you say that? I mean, even before Trump takes office, that's not long.
Well, we're waiting. We're actually waiting right now on potential further extensions to the export controls on things like AI chips and semi-cap equipment. There was some news flow recently that suggested that the government may be looking for, I think it was up to 200 additional Chinese companies to maybe put on the restriction on what's called the entity list to prevent sales to those companies. You have to remember, a lot of the companies that have been buying stuff, within the confines of the controls, they may potentially be viewed as things like Huawei proxies, right? These are companies that are kind of new, that have sort of grown up in the wake of these sanctions. And it isn't entirely possible that we may see further tightening of this, actually, like relatively in the relatively near future, even before the inauguration in January happens.